Fascism and the Albanian Spirit, Chapter 1. The Rays of a New Dawn. We have entered a completely new period, one that can be described as a bridge from one kind of civilization to another kind of civilization. Mussolini. By Âsht. 1.1. A Fortunate Sunset. For a long time, we had lost all hopes of seeing a reborn Albania. We believed the bloody claws of some bankrupt politicians had become the rulers of all Albanian wealth, both moral and material. The boundless flow of misery, fueled by the endless tears of every household and Albanian person, spread a sorrowful veil of mourning over our land. Under its weight, with sighs of the soul, all hopes of the Albanians were crushed. In the cities and villages, across the fields and mountains, all strength was depleted, and the heart of those virgin lands no longer beat with its usual rhythm. It seemed as if, under this heavy weight of misery, the entire Albanian world would be extinguished, and over all those graves of souls, the living corpses, the satanic mummies of an inhumane and anti-Albanian clientele would rise. Under the diplomatic robes of political merchants, they acted like Judas, who betrayed Christ with a kiss. Similarly, the deceivers who abandoned the Albanian people first kissed the people with their usual demagoguery, then betrayed them. Thanks for reading Dionysian Journal. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and support my work. Those who fled, leaving Albania under the roar of cannons, foreign and domestic, those who now live a life of extravagant luxury in foreign metropolises, will be held accountable before Albanian history. Our history will list them among its traitors. The Albanian people were suffering. The unfortunate populace were in pain. Meanwhile, the hated parliamentary usurers, the so-called fathers of the nation, as the people mockingly called them, had no other concern except to pass laws that served their own interests. Often I ask myself, what kind of soul could these people have had? Did their conscience never trouble them? How ridiculous they looked! They built fantastic palaces, while the unfortunate people were worn down in swamps and huts. They dined from porcelain and gold, while the people lacked even corn bread. They bathed in cologne, adorned themselves with jewels, emeralds and diamonds, while the poor people walked the streets naked and barefoot. Just recalling these scenes makes the skin on your entire body cringe. 1.2 A New Albanian Dawn. When we had lost all hope, when even the few young people who nurtured in their hearts a single goal, to improve the condition of the Albanian people, were about to become victims before the tyrant, when every effort of ours seemed quixotic, when Albanian politics was undergoing its crushing and final downfall, when our economic situation had reached the thinnest thread and was on the verge of breaking. On a clear April morning, a glorious and fraternal army crossed the blue Adriatic and landed on the turbulent shores of Albanian soil to bring a new order and social and human justice worthy of a long-suffering people like ours. It could not be delayed any longer. 1.3 Mussolini and Albania. The final grasps, the deep groans of a soul overflowing with inconsolable misery, touched the heart of the one who, with fascism, created the true doctrine of the people. Benito Mussolini, born into a family of generations of proletarians, who from his earliest youth experienced all the hardships and sufferings that life can inflict on a person, understood the call of a proud people and a rich but plundered and looted land. There is no Albanian who does not know how Mussolini has, on many occasions, shared in our joys and sorrows, how many times he has sacrificed the bread from his own people to come to the aid of the Albanian people's needs. But all those aids went unnoticed. They silently ended up in the banks of Switzerland, England, France, and America, while the people for whom those funds and aid were sent languished, starving, and despairing over the graves of Albania. Mussolini himself, in a speech delivered in Rome before the representatives of Albania, had this to say: "You know that for many years I have been following all the efforts of your people, and I have always sought to assist them in their needs. There can be no doubt about the sincere love of the Duce." 1.4 The People's Faith. In a folk song that emerged after the events of April 7th, we observe a deep and unwavering faith of the people in a general well-being created by fascism. The people believe in the civilizing spirit that will sweep through our neglected land. Especially prominent is the grand promise of Mussolini: "What Rome wants, this will be the banner." The High Fascist Council, in its extraordinary meeting of April 13th, made the following decision. The High Fascist Council declares that Fascist Italy is prepared, with its people, its weapons, and its own means, to guarantee the ancient and fierce Albanian people order, respect for every religious belief, advancement in civilization, social justice, and the joint protection of its borders and peace. We are faced with an undeniable truth. Fascism has clearly defined its stance and the path it will follow. To respect all beliefs with special care, to establish a new social and political order capable of overcoming all difficulties and obstacles, and to elevate the country toward a future of work and peace. Today's reality confirms this faith of the people. 1.5 Footsteps of a New Civilization. Naturally, there will be some for whom fascist politics won't be appealing, because it doesn't serve their interests. They will be the numerous and decayed satellites of the ousted regimes. They may be disappointed, and they have the right to be, because the pumpkin won't float on water anymore. They will no longer be able to speculate at the expense of the worker and, more generally, at the expense of the Albanian people. They may be dissatisfied, but certainly not the Albanian worker, for whom there will be permanent work. So much land has been left uncultivated. That will no longer remain the case. The Highlander and farmers live in a miserable way, but they will no longer live like that. New buildings will rise, perhaps small, but suitable for people to live in. Many villages have been cut off from Albanian life due to a lack of transportation means and especially roads. A perfect network of roads will be completed. There is a shortage of drinking water and many other civil works that will be carried out in Albania. This gigantic undertaking requires relentless work. Therefore, it is necessary to awaken the instinct of work in every Albanian, to work with conscience and honor, because every completed task is beneficial both for personal interest and for the general interest. Work is a creative force. It is the mother of all good things. The fascist state considers work, in all its various forms, as a social duty. The duty of every person is to work. Everyone must be a worker. Everyone must work. Work, as fascism sees it, is not a punishment, nor is it a means of enslavement that tends to make life harder. Not at all. On the contrary, fascism regards work as a daily effort toward perfection, aimed at serving the highest national interests. Work should not be commanded. It should arise naturally, as a driving feeling of the spirit. Work should become instinctive to us. We all must work, regardless of age or class. The energies of every fascist citizen must be poured into work, into fruitful work. This is the hallmark of civilization that depends on us. 1.6 The Founding Statute. The Albanian Renaissance, placed under the symbols of the lictor, is rushing powerfully towards its highest destinies. To lead the noble and brave Albanian people toward this life-giving light, many sacrifices and much care were and will be needed. In this regard, fascist Italy will spare no sacrifice. This generous spirit is demonstrated with fatherly love by the King Emperor himself, who, recognizing the great need for our Renaissance, while handing us the founding statute, expressed himself as follows: considering that in order to achieve progress, it is essential to establish the structure of the state in alignment with the highest national interests, we have decided to gift our beloved Albanian people a founding statute as a sign of our love and paternal care. The founding statute of the Kingdom of Albania is a pure expression of the most heartfelt sentiments that emanate from the soul of the Italian people. This people, friend and brother, has demonstrated on many occasions through actions the generous feelings that inspire them toward our country and our people. The new statute is a cornerstone of the structure of the reborn Albania. Following the traces of the Albanian nature and adapting the deepest needs of the country, Albania has once again been given a traditional form of government, the monarchical form. The Albanian state is governed by a constitutional monarchy. All Albanians have seen this statute, so I do not find it necessary to go through all its articles. I will only mention a few points, those that fill our hearts with an indescribable enthusiasm, and in which the generosity of fascist Italy is reflected, as it has decided to honor and elevate us to the status of a nation with rights and centuries-old traditions. The second article states, the Albanian flag is red with a black double-headed eagle in the center, marked with the sign of the lictor fasces. The flag of Castrioti continues to wave triumphantly and proudly across the glorious and martyred peaks of Albania, soaked with tears of the heart and refreshed with the deep sighs of the soul. Further in the second article, the official language of the state is Albanian. The Albanian language, that sweet language like the song of a summer bird, which resonates so refreshingly in the speech of our lyric poets, which is so powerful and overwhelming in the speech of our epic poets. The language, the distinguishing mark of every nation, the element upon which the life of a people is based, has been recognized and made the official language. The third article, all religions are permitted. The free exercise of worship and its practices is guaranteed, in accordance with the law. This is one of the most delicate points for the harmonious regulation of Albanian life. However, fascism holds the greatest respect for all religions. For Christianity, it has been a cradle, and for Islam, it is its most fervent protector. When Benito Mussolini visited Libya on March 17, 1937, the Muslim population present him with the sword of Islam as a token of their deepest gratitude. Continuously, all the other articles touch upon the nerve of Albanian life. They all aim for the well-being and complete regulation of our national life. The people of this suffering land will be grateful only to the magnanimity of the Duce, who harbors such generous feelings for them. 1.7 Property and work. In the fascist regime, all classes have duties and rights. For example, capital is obligated to produce and not to remain idle, and its production should not have as its primary aim the enrichment of the capitalist's personal interest. Instead, all production should be used as an increase in wealth for the benefit of the national collective. I find it necessary to explain the position the fascist state holds towards the owner, capitalist, and the worker. Let us refer to the founding statute of the kingdom to see what it says about property. All properties, without exception, are inviolable. When required by the true international interest, as determined by the law, they may be expropriated, with fair compensation provided. When examining fascist legislation, we see not only the rights of the property but also its duties. There are many laws that regulate this matter. Thus, we see that property is no just a simple ownership of things, not merely a source of personal wealth, but it is a duty towards the state. The right to property, according to fascism, has its roots in moral and social reasons. When these two reasons are lacking, the right to property is expected to be revoked. For example, if a person wants to destroy something just because it belongs to them, or wants to leave land uncultivated just because they feel like it, fascism holds that this forfeits their reasonable right to property because they fail to meet the ethical and social reasons that previously justified their ownership before the national collective. Thus, a property owner is not only responsible for the damages they directly cause to the public food, but also for the damages caused indirectly, such as by leaving the land uncultivated. Fascism respects property and the income it can generate, but it does not allow in any way that this property be used to the detriment of the national interest. The right of the worker is to receive fair compensation, a suitable salary for the work performed, sufficient to meet living needs, to have a fixed number of working hours, to be insured against risks that may occur during work, to secure retirement, and to have relatively stable employment. The duty of the worker is to work with conscience and will. This is the first time that such a current of civilization is spreading in our country, the first time that this human light penetrates Albanian soil. 1.8 Glimpses of New Horizons. Albanian youth must be ignited with the ideals of fascist squattism, armed with the dynamic spirit of the uprising. In the past, everything was promised to the Albanian youth, yet nothing was ever given. The ridiculous ruler and that tyrannical regime had the audacity to repeat countless times with their bloodthirsty lips, "All our care is devoted to the youth." And what care did they actually show for the youth? None. They showed no care at all. They did nothing for the youth. Therefore, it would have been better if they had adopted as their motto, "All our care is devoted to the crushing oppression of the youth." What could he have done for the youth when, together with his interior minister, he considered them a dangerous element? He viewed the youth as a disruptive force that needed to be crushed, whose head had to be stamped out like a fiery-tongued dragon. The tyrant thought that by killing Avni Rustemi, the symbol of the Albanian youth, he had killed all the aspirations of our youth. On the contrary, the blood of Avni Rustemi, Luig Gurakaki, and their companions echoed even more deeply in our veins. However, our forces were few. They were crushed and died before they could be born. The Red Tyrant's cruelty was directed toward two main objectives. 1. To plunder the state's coffers. 2. To oppress the youth as much as possible. Today, however, things are different. The great windows have been opened. Beyond them, a great light shines, passionate songs burst forth, and in the flame of the ideal, the song of youth blazes on the horizon. New energies are renewed, and in the soul of everyone, the refreshing buds of the sweetest hopes blossom. Just as a farmer, sitting by his field, becomes intoxicated with joy while watching the golden ripeness of the crops, so too do parents today feel their hearts swell with pride as they see their children, the fruit of their love, marching with confident steps. The parents know that this march is the guarantee and growth of the fascist homeland. 1.9 A new victory. Every manifestation marks a new victory in terms of preparing the youth, a victory of spirit and faith, a victory of military glory, a victory of peace and work. Now, youth is not just a mere symbol of strength, no. It is now the strength itself, even more than strength. It is the flesh and blood of our reborn nation. Within it lies the hope of a promising future. In the past, we burned with an ideal. We burned because we, the youth, had our laws more deeply rooted in our blood than in our minds. It was the very spirit that demanded it of us. It was the youthful drive that compelled us to act toward a goal, to reach a destination. But what goal, what destination could we reach when we were shackled in chains? What initiative could we take? All our energies were poured out and wasted under the miserable weight of oppression. They withered, just as flowers wither in the fields. This was the fruit of the care devoted to the youth. In the fascist regime, youth is not considered a threat. Today, it is regarded as a force upon which the nation has placed all its hopes. Mussolini, with the cooperation of the youth, began his activities. The fascist youth, enthusiastic and strong, created the empire and elevated Italy's prestige to its current dignity as one of the foremost and strongest states in Europe. The Albanian youth is part of this youth framework. We see that all nations are burning with their ideals, with their blood and their history. It would be a sin, therefore, for us, the Albanian youth, to stand idly by, merely watching. Today, we have an ideal, we have a goal. 1.10 The vision of a new Albania. Within a short period under fascist rule, Albania has taken on a new face. It is marching towards an unprecedented progress. This current material transformation must also be followed by another transformation, a moral and spiritual transformation. Moral and material transformation must go hand in hand, without separating from each other, if we aim to achieve a complete and not superficial civilization. The Albanian Fascist Party, which is always vigilant, will observe and encompass all aspects of Albanian life. Its activities will be directed towards the well-being of the people, and it will not shy away from any speculation or scheme that might harm the national good. Capitalists, workers, the youth of both sexes, and the entire life of the nation will inevitably be guided through the party's organs. It will organize them and direct them towards a suitable national harmony. The new Albania has a dynamic appearance adapted to the times in which we live. 1.11 The duties of every Albanian. The foremost and primary duty of every Albanian is to contribute all their energy to the construction of the new Albanian edifice, where Mussolini himself will be the architect. The doors of history, which are opening so gloriously before our generation, should become the most brilliant pages of our national history. We must be careful not to fall into hypocrisy and demagoguery. It is better and more honorable to do nothing at all than to act out of fear, or just to please someone. The expression of every worker, in any kind of work, must be fascist. Being fascist means being sincere and honest. The expression of a young person today must be heroic, and in their heroism, they should ignite the brightest dawns of a truly fortunate future for the entire Albanian people. In this chapter, Roddy plainly highlights the squalid state of the Albanian people and psyche following nearly 25 years of constant turmoil. The lack of any meaningful change, freely promised by the corrupt political elite, who had retained the Oriental Ottoman habit of lying while awake and only telling the truth in their sleep, left much of the intellectual class in a state of perpetual despair. When Mussolini managed to turn the Italian state around in less than 15 years, just across the Adriatic, it seemed to many as if Christ himself had been resurrected and sent by the Father to aid the Albanian intellectual and worker. However, their ignorance lay in thinking that this aid would come for free. While Mussolini and the Italians did help improve the terrible state of affairs in Albania, their efforts were mostly limited to central Albania, particularly Tirana, where the Italian legacy endures in the form of beautiful-style Littorio and Barichetto-style buildings, which continue to house government and ministerial offices. This situation can be compared to the Macedonian Wars, where Rome seemingly saved Greece from the Macedonians. but at a significant cost. However, while the Italians extracted natural resources and transferred manpower to Italy from Albania, they did not destroy Durrës as Rome did Corinth. Thanks for reading Dionysian Journal. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and support my work.